Devon, welcome to the potty.
Thanks for having me, my bro.
Bro, pleasure to have you here while you're in Wellington. We're having like a massive yarn before the episode started, and it's one of those cliche things you do when you have like a guest on and you're just catching up and you're talking about so much, but you also talk about stuff you're probably going to talk about on the podcast.
Yeah.
Just the nature of it. But how's it going, man?
It's good, bro. It's good to be back home.
Nice.
It's really nice to be back home. Going to be down here for about a month, doing some recording, catching up with the fams, got some gigs on. The weather really put it on for me as I came down, all that wind. So
as always, bro. And before we really kick into things, do you mind just introducing yourself, brother?
For sure. My name's Devon Welch. Born and bred on the Kapiti Coast. I am a working musician. I am a budding producer, and I love music and everything to do with it. So that's pretty much why I tick over every day I get out of bed. That's why I roll out of bed.
That's awesome.
Just trying to find that new avenue of creation or that new experience.
How did you first stumble onto music?
I would have been real young. You just grow up through school and that. And I used to go to Dad's every second weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And he just had this guitar that always just sort of sat over there in the corner. And then one day when I was big enough to get my arms around it, he sort of came through and just like taught me this blues lick. And I just like learnt it, and it was mean. And then I went home and I was still playing it. And my mom was like, "Oh, we'll get you a guitar." And then that's how it all started, bro.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I've got so many memories as well because I've always had guitars like lying around in my house growing up, and just the feeling of how massive they used to be as like a small boy, and like just they're so oversized when you're like 5 years old and you pick it up. But we had the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Californication, and like a bunch of the music videos burnt onto like a videotape.
Yeah.
So I used to have like my little nylon string guitar, and I used to try and play along to like Californication and stuff.
Classic.
But I used to get so frustrated myself because I used to know no chords.
Yeah.
So I'd just be strumming and my guitar would be like totally out of tune, but I'd just be like, why can't I make the same noise that, the Red Hot Chili Peppers are making?
I'm sure so many beginning guitarists come up to that problem, mate.
100%.
Yeah, that's so crack up.
Bro, we've got lots to unpack with your story, and thanks so much for being keen to jump on. And I feel like this conversation will probably span, a lot from some of the trauma that you've experienced in your life, but also what are those steps you've taken throughout those courses of tragic events, which has like built resilience into you being the man that you are today. And there's that cool theme of music, as we said earlier, which sort of underpins all of these stories. So we'll definitely hit into that. But I was keen to take it back from the start, bro. Being raised in Kapiti, born and bred.
Yeah.
And then leaving your home at the age of 16. And we're all, we're kids at the age of 16. Like we're
totally.
Basically a baby.
But I knew it all.
Yeah. And that's the mentality we have, eh? It's like, I think back when I was 16, it's the same thing. Like you're just so naive to the world. But what led you to leave home at 16?
Well, firstly, bro, I was a havoc child. Really just like had problems with authority, just like had a lot of energy and a lot of emotions growing up, which I didn't know at the time. You don't know about those things, and just sort of was trying to find a place to put them. It was me being mischief, bro. It was me being mischief and just like breaking the rules, bending the rules, and just really pushing my parents, my mum and my stepdad, and my dad, just to the absolute limits. And it just sort of got to that point. It just got real full on. And so my young mind told me, I need to get out of here.
Wow.
I need to get out of here. And I knew the world, and I'll be fine. Like that's exactly what it was. And I just, it wasn't clean by any means, but yeah.
Did you, when you were that age and you're being like a terror to your parents, were you aware that you were being like a shitty 16-year-old or like a shitty teenager, or like, was it just like, what was that like?
I knew I wasn't like a goody good.
Yeah.
But I knew when I was doing something that was wrong, but there wasn't like the process of like action and consequence in my head at the time I was doing it. So I, whether it was with friends or whether I was doing it myself, it was just like I'd do it, and then I just find myself in these situations where I'm getting punished, and it was kind of like, well, this is dumb. But like just doing the same thing over and over again, just in different ways. Yeah.
And
Man.
where do you go if you're 16 years old and you get, well, you didn't get kicked out, you left home?
Yeah. So I ran away. Bro, like I'd run away a few times. Like I hate to think about what I've actually put my parents through, but we're good now, which is amazing. But like, yeah, I just left, and just because we lived on the outskirts of Otaki, away from the main town. So I just run towards the town, and first time I like ran to like my primary school that I was going to, and just like hung out there for a bit. And then eventually I ended up running away to a friend at the time, and they took me in. Yeah.
That's awesome, bro. And what was the relationship like moving in with your friend? Were their parents really like receptive of you just staying there?
Yeah, they were. And it was pretty hard being in the same town as my parents and not really being able to see them, to talk to my mum, and just because everything was so heightened and in that regard. But yeah, I found out years later that my mum was actually like ringing the college and making sure that I was still going.
Oh,
like
wow.
This is like only like 3 months ago. This happened when I was at college.
Wow.
It was so cool, like to hear that years later.
Yeah, bro.
Like she was sort of like guardian angeling just in case she needed to come down,
Yeah. No,
tell me what's up.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I was actually born in Otaki as well. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day, and your friend group, from the group up in Kapiti, the amount of trauma and just rough shit which has happened to this specific group of people is actually like it's just, I can't even like describe it. Like the amount of series of unfortunate events which just happen one after another after another, and it must have we can get into some of them, but it must have seemed like. And was it like this, reflecting back now, are you sort of like, why is it all of this happened to us?
Totally. Yeah. In a big way. In a big way. I got to a point where I was just sort of like looking at the sky, just thinking like, why me? Like full on just screaming, like Goku trying to power up to like Super Saiyan level for the first time, bro. Like totally. Yeah. That thought comes across real strong. After a few things happen, you start to, like the first thing happens and you sort of like, this is what it is, and you keep moving and you brush it off, and then it happens again, or something else happens, and then once you get a few under the belt, you start to, I started to question that. Definitely.
What were some of your like most hardest or vulnerable moments that you can recall back on from in like, your teenage years to your early 20s?
That's a good question. Growing up, I thought I was bulletproof, so I didn't really feel vulnerable. And I guess that might have just been like a coping mechanism of me just like leaving the damage behind and just continuing forward. Because like that's all you want to do is find the good times. That it's sort of natural for us humans to not want to have those sad times. It's sort of really hard to pinpoint. Yeah,
it's tough, man. And like what It's such a crazy, and especially when I know you've unfortunately lost friends through suicide, and I have as well. And I remember my mum used to always have this photo of her mate on her fridge, and I used to always ask her and be like, who's this guy and stuff, and she's like, I'll sort of tell you when you're older. And then I found out that he took his own life, and I remember just having this feeling. I was like, man, that would never happen to like one of my mates.
It's
like
crazy,
that would never happen to my friend group. Like that just won't happen at all. And then then we lost one of our mates, Sian, when we were like 18. He was living up in Taupō, and and it's like shit, it's just the same. It's such a common story across New Zealand, and when you actually think back around how many people have experienced one of their friends or a family member in distress through their mental health. Like it's more people experience that than not.
It's crazy. It doesn't, like, we know things are out there. Like there's news from across the world all the time, but like it doesn't seem real until it hits home, right? Until it's personal. It's someone that you actually have a connection to, a bond with, and then that's where sort of the emotional tie part comes from it. And I definitely remember like when the bro left. Not only was it just like the giantest shock for everybody, it was kind of just like, oh,
Mm.
this is what that is. Like but you're so busy, your brain's going nuts, your emotions are just so active that you're in it. All of a sudden you're just in it, eh? Yeah, I'll never forget that day, bro. Never forget that day. That was the day my heart first broke, like actually. Yeah, that stuff's like, you just wish that on no one, eh?
No.
But it's so rife.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy how we got to that point.
And it's insane seeing the repercussions from somebody choosing to take their own life. Like I remember being at the funeral with my, of my friend Sian who had passed, and just seeing like his mum having to speak at his funeral,
Yeah, man.
his dad having to, say
bro.
words at their own son's funeral, and it's like, if only that person, and it's like a sickness, right? It's like a disease of the minds which turns you to turn on yourself,
Totally,
and like take
bro.
your life. But it's like, if only that person could see like how much love and support there is.
Yeah, man.
It's so tough, and it changes you for sure.
Totally, bro. I agree with you on all aspects there, man. Like, the bro, he was like, he would say to us, "Oh, I don't really have that many friends." And then at his funeral, bro, he packed out Southwood's Car Museum. There was people lining in the atrium, like out the door, like couldn't even see what was going on. And as to the people that, like, the parents and the friends, and they have to speak, man, like there's no worse gig to do. Like, then have to be strong for everybody whilst you're going through that loss yourself. Like, I played a song, like, in the week from when he died to his funeral. I wrote a song for him.
What was the song called?
It's on the album, bro. It's called Infinity and Beyond.
Beautiful.
Yeah. It sort of encapsulates what I was thinking and feeling at the time. It was just me on an acoustic guitar at the Tangi, but it's now evolved into a masterpiece of amazing musicians on it, and a ripping solo that sounds like it could just tear the fabric of space and time. But
awesome.
Having to do that at his funeral was probably the hardest gig I've ever had. I promised myself I wasn't going to cry. I was like, like bringing it all in and just sort of like sitting there, just sort of like not really moving, not really making eye contact with people. I think it was like the second or third thing on like the schedule, and then like jumping up and just like singing the song, and like it's a bit of a blur. There's a video of it somewhere. I've got a DVD of it somewhere. I still haven't watched it. And then as soon as I played that last note, bro, just like, I'm so glad the camera went away from my face on that one, because I would have just looked like a blubbering mess. Like, it was crazy.
And when you're writing a song like that, is that a way for you to process the emotions that you're feeling at the time?
Totally, bro. For that one there, it was just sort of like, I had the guitar. I made it like previous 3 weeks or something, and then just that happened, and it sort of lined up with the feelings that were going on, and then the words all on that one just came flying out, and it was like the quickest turnaround in a song I've ever done. Yeah, it was like a real zone moment.
I remember at Isaac Malanta's funeral, who passed away many years back. Rest in peace to that boy. But the same, very similar situation where Ashley Graham, shout out Ash, one of the most like talented musos there is, but he had written a song for Isaac, and he had sung that at the funeral, and to this day, that is the most like heart-wrenching and like bone-chilling performance I've ever seen. It's just raw emotion, eh?
It was amazing, eh? And it was really, really healing for me to be able to put that down somewhere, even though there was still so much of it in me because it was so fresh at the time. It sort of like took a screenshot of what I was thinking and feeling of that time. And now it's amazing because that's like been a tool for me and my healing and processing, that I can revisit that now because it's on the album. I don't have to carry that around. I know that sacred piece of the bro and the memory is there. And when I need to remind myself of who I am and where I come from, I go back and listen to it and just remind me, when I get caught in the every day-to-day of like being a human, the little parts that start to sum up, I look at those and go, that's right.
That's beautiful, bro.
Yeah.
From being that like 16-year-old like lippy little shit, probably.
That's exactly
like,
what it was.
What was the turning point in your life? Because you're like one of the most mellow, down to earth, lovely, wholesome people
Thanks, bro.
like humans that I know. So like, yeah, what were those turning points in your life which, you know, have sort of shaped you to be who you are now?
Yeah, I would say like the stuff that's made me sort of turn around and start to realize actions have consequence would have probably been like post college. So like during college, I was just trying to get through. And then, yeah, when that stuff started to happen, it was when I started to realize that I could actually make huge impacts either way, positive or negative, on other people. And I wasn't totally self-aware of the impacts I was having on people. And slowly but surely, those things were seeded so long, but they started to flower, and then those things started to come back to me, which was of my own making. But like, you know, that was the time when I realized, like, just don't be a dick. That, you know, everyone says everyone's got stuff going on, so just don't be a dick. And I think that's probably one of the most important things that I learnt very quickly. Yeah,
that's good, bro. It's funny. Yeah, it takes so much more energy to be like an asshole than
It
to
does,
be like just a
to
nice
keep it
guy.
up. Yeah.
Like when I see people on like social media or just in general, they're so. It could be even like in a professional setting, like just so painful to work with, and it's like it takes so much more effort to be difficult.
Totally.
Than to be just like mellow and kind to someone.
Yeah, you never see someone who's doing good ripping anyone else down.
No.
And then there is the transparent part of like, you know, the different generations and what they grew up with, and like what they believe and where their internal beliefs stem from, and how well they adapt with how the world's changing around them. You know, like I'd seen some people on the beach the other day and I was talking to them. I was like, they see me with the guitar and they're like, where can we listen to your music? And I was like, oh, do you have Spotify? And they're like, no. I was like, oh, do you have Apple Music? No, we don't own a computer. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Just whoa.
Yeah.
I realized like, okay, sweet. Some people are set in their way and they looked happy. They looked healthy. It was like, okay, something to learn there, you know?
Totally. Yeah, it's funny with different generations and stuff too. Like, yeah, I had like a crap moment a few weeks ago where like my papa, who, you know, I love, and you have shit with your family. It happens, but he said something like totally out of line to someone else in my family in front of me, and it's just like I feel like and as like a man, it was one of those moments where I had to like stand up and challenge him in front of everyone and like say some not very nice words to him, and he's like, you know, he's my granddad. It's not a nice thing to do. It's a horrible situation in general. But almost from those other generations, I feel like a lot of people can almost hide under the guise of being like outspoken or, oh, that's how we've always done it. You know, like I've got my beliefs, and it's like, come on, you got to like get with the times. It's like having your own beliefs and then just being like a bit rude and offensive. So it was, and it was crap because I've never had to like, it's my papa.
And you don't want to.
No, it was horrible to have that conversation with him and like really challenge him. But as like a man, I had to stand up and represent and protect like another member of my family while this was going on, to tell him like you can't do that. You can't do this.
Yeah,
like,
you can't do that. I get that, bro. I get that.
Yeah.
Props to you, bro.
Yeah, it was challenging. It was challenging, but also I'm like proud of myself for standing up and not just letting it slide.
Totally. Yeah, I've had that in the workforce a bit. Like I was working demolition. The bro who passed away, he actually got me the job. And you know, there was some pretty hardened people there that had sort of slipped through the educational cracks. And I'm not there to, you know, educate anyone, but there was some stuff that, like, you know, there's banter. Like it's all good if everyone's having a laugh, but there was some racial things thrown around. It was kind of like, okay, they said it once, and then if it continues, you kind of like, bro, like we all have to stay in the same building together, like and do this mahi together. Like you can't be doing that. Like leave that shit at home. Yeah, bro. Like crazy. Yeah. Some people, And then there's the other part of that of us like trying to understand where they're coming from. You know, like I have that as well. I wouldn't say that any of my grandparents or parents are bad people, but they grew up in the era with the things that they grew up with, and trying to understand that, and like on the top of that, trying to pick my battles of, you know, those moments that I would say anything, as opposed to the points where it's like in a closed situation, and you know it could be a little bit more difficult to try and actually get any result. Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's I think through all of this stuff, when shit's hitting the fan, you got stuff going on. Like I feel like
relationships are just so important, eh? Like having a good support network around you.
Yeah, totally.
Do you want to speak on like throughout some of the adversity that you've faced, like what has having positive relationships meant to you, and how has that helped you throughout those times?
So number one, some of the times when I've been like completely down and out, those people have been the ones that have like kept me afloat. Support and reaching out is probably the most important part of trying to get out of a funk. I mean, I was in a deep rut. So after my partner and my unborn child died, so I left home at 16, and when that happened, there was a big rift between me and my mum and my stepdad just because of how things went down. But as soon as that happened, that was just mended. Those bridges were mended. Mum came down, and just from there, it was just like everyone just like surrounded me, and I was then able to drop my guard, drop my character, and just be. And it was really important for me to have people that could allow me to do that, instead of the people that sort of like who are meaning well. They come up and they kind of say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like, someone made a reference saying, "Oh, at least you're not starving in Africa or something." And I was just kind of like looking at that person at the time, just being like this is my shit. Like, and they're just trying to help. They're just trying to be relevant in that. But having those people around was probably the reason why I'm still here. It got really rough, bro. It got really rough, and reaching out is the most important part. I just want to drive that home because, like you said before, about the mind turning on itself, and you start to think, oh, no one will miss me. Like I went through that, and then after a while, if you let that stir and you don't say it to anyone, it just goes round. It's like, was it Neville or Seamus on like Harry Potter, bro? Like he just keeps stirring, he doesn't know what he's doing, and then all of a sudden it blows up, in his face. And then also not only reaching out to the people that are around you, but reaching out to the right people, in terms of like support services and that. At one point I realized, so I had so many things happen, and I was sweet. I had counseling, and I did all that sort of stuff, and like I managed. I've been managing since I left home, and then I got to a point in the last instance where I was just like blown away, didn't have any more capacity, any more headroom to keep going. I had like stored all these things or suppressed all these things, and then it was just like my catalog's full, my library's full. I need to talk to someone. I reached out to KYS. Shout out KYS.
Kapiti Youth Support.
Yeah, so good. And I talked to them and said, I just need someone to help me understand what my brain's doing, because I can literally see my brain over here running circles, and I can see my emotions over here also. Like it's just banging, and I just seemed stuck, and I just couldn't see any way out of it at all. And they bumped me up to the top of the line, got me to see a clinical psychologist, and started unpacking that. And man, like if it's this wide, you take like a little part out, and then all of a sudden it's go boom, it just expands. I've compressed it. Like it was so much, man. But they actually gave me like the science and the actual explanation of the different parts of the brain and their jobs. And that was amazing, bro. That was so good. I remember that, and it was just a huge turning point in me being able to continue to function and live, bro. That was shout out again, KYS, man.
Yeah, bro.
Doing such good work.
Yeah,
bro.
And totally like organizations like that deserve all of the support they can get to keep, because there's so many other like Devons out there, right, in Kapiti or across the country, bro, who just don't even have a sort of support network to even access, which is just so stuffed up. But man, losing your partner and your unborn child, that's got to be one of the hardest things like any man can probably ever go through, bro. And like, what were those building steps for you when you went into like a period of depression? What were those building steps? Obviously seeing like the clinical psychologist that helped you to, get back on track to being who you are, because I can't even comprehend, bro, like the hurt you would have felt, and some of those thoughts going inside of your head. How did you sort of pull yourself out of that? Because it's so easy to, one, not say anything, not speak to anybody, but to let life just consume you.
Big question. big question. To start with, I had to rearrange in my own head somehow with all the things that were going on, what it actually meant to be a man. And that was you know, allowing myself to feel, allowing myself to be weak, have a moment of vulnerability, you might say. And it was just like literally one day at a time, bro. Just baby steps. Like, we're not coming out here to build the world's biggest wall. We're coming out here to lay one brick perfectly at a time until we have the finished product, that wall. And that's what it was, bro. There was, I kind of don't know how I fully got through the thick of it, to be honest. Other than the support and people checking up on me and making sure that I was still moving and doing my washing and eating and like all that sort of things. I leaned heavily into drugs and alcohol to numb for a very long time. Drinking excessive amounts of alcohol and just smoking a lot of weed to escape, to smooth over what was otherwise a really, really sharp edge that was like nails in the bed where you just wake up and it's there and you're trying to go to sleep and it's there. But yeah, man, I grieved for like a year straight, bro. Like a year straight of like just waking up 5 seconds, it's all back, comes back, boom, just grieving, crying every day. And then the only other 5 seconds of peace in that day was when my mind finally gave up the ghost and I like slipped into sleep. It's hard to put it into like a linear like how to, because everyone's got such different backgrounds, situations and that sort of stuff. But the number one thing was working through the emotion, which isn't something that we're taught as young men. No. You know, my stepdad, love him, doesn't really show or process emotions. And so growing up, I was trying to be like him. But I had all these raging emotions that were just not going to be put into a box. And so for me, I had to realize what was going on. And there was just so much, bro. There was so much going on. It was like getting homework for 3 years and never starting and just like realizing you got so much and just being like, and just being overwhelmed and not knowing where to start. But then eventually, getting the right help, speaking to people that have the knowledge around sort of like emotional intelligence was a huge part for me, to being able to like figure out just one part, take one part today, pull it out. What's this feeling? Try and unpack it, figure out where it came from, and what it actually means, and then be okay with it and realize that that's just a part of you. As much as you want to run away from that pain, that's just a part of you that needs some love. And that way I could put it back down in a healing process, in a healing way, and I would feel lighter, even if it was just like the tiniest speck lighter. It's just, it's consistency of just getting up and just putting in the mahi, bro, just questioning it and just bringing it forward to shed some light on it and not just pushing it down in the box and keeping it in the dark, eh?
What about routine? Like, how did routine...
I had no routine, like, to start with. I was just like, bedridden, hardly get out of bed. But once, that's what helped with people coming through, is that, all right, get up, we're going to go have lunch, blah, 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 that sort of stuff. But eventually, when I was standing on my own too, that was really important, bro. That was really important. Yeah, not hitting the snooze. Even if you just roll out of bed and make your bed, you've won. Yeah, like the battle. Yeah, because I can only imagine how many people just don't, like, you know, like a big night out when you know you should probably get up and shower and continue with the day and go do stuff. But like, there's just this voice in the back of your head just being like, nah, you don't need to do that. Like, what's that going to change? You know, like, what's that going to change? Just changing that.
It's it's crazy, man. But like, massive kudos and props to you for like standing up here, being on a podcast, and people will be listening to this in their car, running on, you know, at work or whatever. But I think having these conversations about mental health and practical examples of, you know, like what it felt like to be in like the worst period of your life, like, but just actually speaking about it makes other people realize that when they feel that feeling too, it's okay. You know, like they're not alone. Other people experience this sort of stuff to different degrees and levels, obviously.
Yeah, man. I've got this thing that I say to people about that exact same thing, is that if there is an afterlife or that sort of thing, and we're all able to join each other again, and we sit down and we talk about the things that we experienced here on earth, I believe if we all talked about our sins or the things that we hid away, by the end of it, if we all sat down in a circle and shared with one another, we'd end up in hysterics, just laughing at ourselves and each other for our lack of originality.
Yeah.
Everyone's thinking, like, has the same thoughts, like, they really do.
Yeah.
And like, we all struggle with the same things at different varying levels and different times of our lives. It's just, if there's anything I can do and to help people realize that, you can just kōrero about it, and that if you do that and be brave, then you'll open yourself up to change, to changing the way things are. Because who wants to sit in a depression? No one wants to. But we sometimes find ourselves there, and that's okay. Like, you can't be happy all the time.
Yeah.
Like, that's just life.
Yeah.
Like,
totally. It's like a false sense of reality that everyone just feels 100% all the time. Like, yeah, I'm great. Like, I'm sure there's the odd person, like maybe a really smiley neighbor might actually be like that. I don't know, but
simpler lives, I believe, is the answer to those ones.
Totally.
It's so complicated, like seeing things on screens and on TV and in movies, and like just comparing ourselves to those is sort of like. But then I see people that are just like, those people that didn't have computers on the beach, walking, holding hands. They're like both grey haired, and they just like look like they're having the time of their life.
Yeah, there's definitely joy in like the simplicity of being disconnected from like social media and technology.
Totally.
I'm really concerned for like. I feel like my generation in particular, we were like really the guinea pigs when it came to social media. Like, we were like the first generation to be at high school, or even that like late stage primary school, where we had like a phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, my first phone. Funny story. My first phone was a Nokia 2280.
Yeah.
Those things are just so robust. We used to
Unbreakable.
play like hacky with it at lunchtime, like all sorts
Use
of
it
things.
as a cricket ball.
Yes, bro. Like almost. But I remember the first time I got a cell phone. I worked on Mum's farm, just like to get the money, because I just want to text this girl.
Yeah.
I used to like work my ass off to get it. It was like I think it was like Boost Mobile at that time, like hook it up, we want it now.
Correct.
Like way back then. And then it just like dial up, then broadband, and then fiber. It's just like, whoa, like we were there for the beginning.
Totally.
Right.
And also the beginning of where like social media is not like regulated at all. It's literally just like the Wild West. And like, who knows, like maybe in like 40 years from now, we'll look back into like TikTok or like Instagram, and it'll be like, however they crafted this, it was way too addictive for people. Like, we need to change like how these things are structured.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, because like the court systems, if something like that, as things evolve, like if something like that happens and it hasn't happened before, that court case, they come down hard, because that sets the precedent for anyone else that ends up doing that. And like, you don't see any of that.
No, you don't.
You don't see any of that. Like, we all know it's there.
Yeah.
Just like we all know that like too much sugar is bad for everyone, but it's still in the foods.
Yeah,
stuff,
exactly.
Like, it's crazy.
We may be the guinea pigs, but I think we turned out okay. Just a few.
Oh, totally.
A few weird things which people will have to deal with a bit later, but it's all right. Bro, that was in 2013 when your partner and your unborn
10 years,
baby. 10 years.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Wow.
That's crazy. Does it feel like a long time ago or like a blink of an eye?
Well, I mean, so much has happened. So much amazing things has happened as well in that time. It always is with me. I think when you have someone that you care about and they pass away, they're always with you, and they become part of who you are. Yeah. And you carry them forward. So I have conversations with them all the time. Bro.
It's beautiful, bro.
Like, and I'm hoping that they're proud of me, like.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Totally, man. Totally. When it comes to your music as well, was there a specific song that like, has any part of your album Freedom dedicated to that part of your life?
Yeah, I think it's almost like a stencil of that time of my life. The first, it's sort of it's in chronological order.
So it's actually in order.
Yeah, in time.
Wow.
Except for the first two songs, which I had to switch because they were one was an instrumental, and I wanted once the lyrics were there, just to keep lyrics in there. But yeah, they all were definitely snapshots of my life or of that occurrence at the time, which is pretty amazing because it allows me to immortalize what I was feeling and thinking at the time and put it down. Like, so with the healing process, like you're carrying all this stuff around. So music is amazing in that way that you can actually create something to pour the emotion into. I mean, it doesn't take it all, but like it's there, and you can literally go back to that at any time and compare, like, you know, especially if you get lost in the future or something, you go back and see that. And for me, it's been amazing for me to be able to go back and see how much I've actually been through when I get sort of bogged down in the nitty gritty of like everyday human life, you know, the small things all pile up. And then I look at that and I'm like, actually, these things don't actually mean that much. They're not actually that big in comparison. You know, comparison can be a great thing.
Yeah, totally.
It can be.
And also comparison is the thief of joy.
It's a terrible stick to measure yourself against, eh?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
When it comes to, I just had a question. What was it? It's like one of those ones that pop up in your head and then it disappears straight away. Oh man, I literally had like a really good question, but now it's gone.
We're talking about 2013, and then we moved.
2013. I had something. It'll come to me soon. But when it comes to your songwriting, bro, like what's your process for songwriting and being creative?
It's different every time, bro. Like I said, with the Bros song, I had the guitar. I just sat down on the guitar and played the guitar, and then all of a sudden, when the occurrence happened, the lyrics came through. Sometimes I'll just be like walking or doing something, and then just like as if I turned on, like my head was a radio, and I turned on the radio, like something comes through, and I quickly jump on my phone and I jot it down. Crazy. I've got a like a folder full, just like pages of like statements or like little rhymes or like just so many things. Then there's also for the stuff we're about to record, where I've got 2 songs completely like done, just going there to record it. And then I've got like 5 to 6 ideas, which I have some forms for, and I'll take it to the band room. And I'm blessed to have the most talented musicians in my corner writing this waka with me to help me when I get stuck and to creatively input their own ideas into it to make it what it is. So that's what we're writing on at the moment. And then there's sort of the side which I've started getting into, like beat making and producing, where I'm doing that because being on Waiheke, you can't just go down the road and have a drink with the bros in Wellington. You know, like, it's not sort of like that. So I've got like focus on making music that way, which is an alternative way for when I can't be in the band room. Yeah, which has been really helpful. Yeah, real helpful.
Yeah, it's amazing how like words can just come to you for certain, like as a way to express yourself. And like, what even is an idea? Like I've heard like Joe Rogan talk about this before. He's like, what is the essence of an idea? It's basically magic, right? Like it's just this thing which pops out of nowhere, and then you can literally create it. Like this cup, for example, like this was an idea in somebody's brain, like to produce a computer or a microphone or a table. Like it's all
planes, like things that people like thought was impossible, like just comes through. There's so many different ways, that's what I love about the arts, and like how, you know, all musicians are so like they got their own quirks, or like even like artists that like paint or like spray or like anyone carving, like they're all sort of like a medium, I believe, you know, and they sort of like tune into the things that they tune into, and they resonate at the level, and then it's like they're at a resonant wavelength, and something just sort of reaches out and just sort of like touches or like prods them, and then all of a sudden the thought, and then they just like, if they go into action, then that's how they come forward. I believe that for me as well, like especially with like writing sad songs, like it's very obvious that I was feeling sad when I write a sad song. Yeah. But then also when you're having an amazing time or you're curious about something, it comes across in the lyrics or in the music that you make around it.
Yeah, that's super special way. And I'm like a massive fan. I absolutely love. I'm always listening to music. And a cool part about doing this podcast as well is being able to sit down with musicians and like pick their brain. We just had Reese Rich on last week, which was really cool. We've had Will, the bro Will McLean.
Yeah, bro, I love what Will's doing.
Yeah, he's smashing it. Whenever you see like a live, I'd love to get your take on this, but whenever you see like a live performance, you see like a band just like literally in the groove, is there something that you guys experience as like a collective band? Because it seems like you guys are all just in sync with each other. And if somebody fucks up, it's like, you know, you can sort of move and mold your way through like eras and stuff. Like, do you feel in that moment when you're jamming, doing a gig, for example, like you guys are almost one? Like, it's like some weird, I don't know. It's
called the pocket, bro.
The pocket. You're in the pocket.
Yeah, you're in the pocket. You're all synced up. It's a really sort of like telekinetic thing, because you can't just turn around and be like, chorus, bro.
Exactly.
Like, you know,
exactly.
like you have to have either signs or just know the tunes really well. But yeah, man, and that's sort of like what every live performer sort of strives for, I believe, is to find that essence, that magic, because it's a vibe, bro. It's like that's probably the most, that's the best part about music, is when you hit those spots and you just, I can't explain the feelings. It's like better than any drug you could ever take. You could not substitute anything for when you're in that moment. And it's to do with the sound that's being made as well. Like, sound is a huge part of how humans interact and envelop the world. We use sound to communicate. Like, it's almost like a ritual when you hit that sort of, like, you know.
Yeah, it seems cool. I've like never had to really experience it before, but I'm sure it's like just an incredible feeling.
Yeah.
What are your goals with music, bro? Like, where do you want to take this?
That's a really good question, because that's the things that we're focusing on right now, is how far do we want to take this? What does success look like? I want to be performing and doing music or producing or doing sound for the rest of my days, in any format whatsoever, whether I'm going to like working on the 660 tour, or whether I'm driving trucks full of equipment to the shows. I just want to be in that realm as a basis.
As your purpose.
As my purpose, bro, as a basis. And so for me personally, with my music, my goals are to spread my messages as my life goes on. So what I've had and what will come. And I just want to reach as many people and just sort of like find the people that resonate with that stuff, and just give them little gifts that come to me that potentially aren't even meant for me. They just come through me. But eventually, if I was to knuckle it down to my actual top 5 goals, I want to be touring internationally.
Sick.
I want to be playing enough shows that I can, like, you know, buy a house. I want to be doing the business part of it, so that all of the people on my team are looked after. And like that's a big like goal. But we're making moves towards that right now.
That's awesome, brother. I love hearing someone like verbalize and articulate, actually say out loud their goals.
Yeah, bro.
And especially when they're ambitious. Like, so many people would never say that sort of stuff out loud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like as I've gotten older as well, like the people which I always look up to and admire are people like creators, like creatives, people who are producing stuff, who are like, actually, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna start this business, or like, you know, I'm gonna make an album. Like, people who make stuff and put it out there into the world for like the world to basically judge and receive and like get value from. Like, those are the people within society today which I think should be valued a lot more, instead of, you know, you got fucking like Andrew Tate and stuff. Like we should be just like entrepreneurs, creative musicians, like podcast. I'm probably a bit biased, but like, you know, these like doctors are pretty important too. I might say that.
But what do they want to do in their weekends when they're not doing that?
Yeah.
They would probably want to go see a movie or a show or listen to a podcast. Like, we're a part of the economic cycle. That's for sure. You know, entertainment has always been around. Yeah, and will always be around. Totally. That's why people go watch rugby games.
Exactly.
That's why people go to like the circus.
Up the wires.
Up the wires.
Up the wires. Yeah, bro. No, I love it. Who are you listening to at the moment? Who's your biggest like music inspirations?
Wow, that's a real big question. I'm currently listening to a band called Dr. Ricknor's new EP.
Yeah, bro.
Luther, our drummer, drums with those guys, and Jules, who's also on Journey to Freedom, my album, plays with those guys as well,
sick.
or those girls. Sorry.
Those released like a new EP as well, eh?
Yeah.
Been jamming that. It's good.
Yeah. There's so much. There's so many to name. Like, and it's all New Zealand homies. Like, at the moment, I still have my like West Coast hip hop playlist
Yeah.
over to the side. Yeah, it's and all these bands that I'm meeting in Auckland. Like there's this band called Shoeless. You'll probably start to see their name pretty soon. Yeah, man, there's so much talent in New Zealand. It's ridiculous. Even just on the Kapiti Coast, I thought there was a lot of talent. But once I left, it was like, no, this is everywhere.
Yeah, bro.
This is everywhere because he's just in the garage or in like the shed.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent in NZ. A lot of cool grassroots talent.
Yeah, totally.
It's like with everything, like, but the pathway to sustain yourself, especially in New Zealand, as we don't have that like economy of scale, can be like a really tricky path to like nail.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you look at someone like 660, like they'll probably go down as like the biggest band of all time. Well, like from the modern era, the fact that they can like sell out stadiums.
Yeah.
In NZ, like that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's good mahi, bro. It's good mahi. I think they're even starting a label, eh?
True.
Yeah,
yes, man.
Doing their own thing, which is cool.
From the grimy flats of Dunedin to where they are now, it's pretty sick.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they definitely got like a lot of media coverage as well, eh? And that was like, I feel like it's one of the parts that like their music speaks for itself, but like their media coverage is just like outright just everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, whoever was doing that, good job.
Yeah.
Give me a call.
Yeah, that's awesome. If we head back to your story as well, bro.
Sure.
If we just rewind a bit. So in 2016, there was a tragic incident, a longboard accident.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing stuff pop up on Facebook and that. What was the brother's name that passed? Tristan.
Tristan. Yeah.
Can you maybe speak on that experience if you want to? And again, like I must have felt you were coming into like a better place, and then another crazy life event happens.
Yeah.
And like, how do you go about rebuilding like yourself again from all of that?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, firstly, I'd start off by saying how me and Tristan sort of like knew each other. We were living together down in Raumati, and I had sort of met Tristan and found out that he was like this longboarder guy, and like he was just such a dude, bro. He's just such a dude, always like joking around, having a good time. And him and I, like his passion was longboarding and my passion was like music. And so our conversations would never be idle chit chat. We'd always be talking what each other were up to and stuff, like, and seeing what was going on. And just like, there was a synergy there, bro, that was like really, really big for him and I. And I hadn't even known him that long, bro. Like to the point where he would come to me, he was saying, oh, we've got this video of me bailing that someone in America, this TV show is like hit me up to use. And he's like asking me like, do I know anything about that? And I was kind of like, well, there's a couple of different ways you could go about it, blah, blah, blah. You either get paid once or they continue to pay you if they're going to keep to use it, that sort of stuff. So we're always just talking about what we love to do.
Must have been a bad slam if they wanted to.
Oh, it's pretty, yeah. He doesn't do things by half. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we knew each other. And I just quit my job to do music full time. So like we were just like really engaging in that. And then so he sort of asked me to, we're gonna go do a run. Do you want to come along? And I was like in my little room. I was like, nah, bro. I've got all these gigs this weekend. Like taking it real seriously, having just like quit my job and like taking that scary leap. And then. So they went off, and then I was like, oh, better go have a shower. And he came back, and then he's sort of like, are you sure? And I was like, you know what? Fuck, man, you're so supportive of me and what I do. I'm going to come support you. And then on the way, he asked me to drive, and then, yeah, it happened, bro. It was sort of like, yeah, it was hard to come back from that with the bro being so entrenched in Kapiti and the friend groups. That put a lot of strain on a lot of relationships. His parents were just so loving, bro. They really helped me navigate that time. And they still do to this day. And out of that came some really beautiful relationships with some of his friends, which I've gotten to know. Taylor Franks. I already knew his older sister, Amy, and now Melissa and I, his other sister, we've got another amazing relationship that's forged from that. It's kind of part of the healing and the processing that I learned to do was reframing things, you know, because when it's all pretty hectic, you need to be able to reshape and reframe things in your own mind to alleviate some of the pressure. Yeah.
What do you mean by that? By reshaping things in your mind? Can you elaborate on that?
So, in a dark time, training yourself to be able to find one good thing, and then that one good thing might be the one thing that pulls you through it, instead of just being lost like in the void of space. That's sort of how I would describe it. And so, it doesn't happen immediately, and sometimes hindsight is a part of it.
Yeah.
But like knowing now that Taylor and I have the relationship that we have, because I end up, he ended up calling me up here, come around to the shed, and we just go around there, jam. We end up in a band for a while.
Awesome.
And just like the guy's got the biggest heart, and he's just like, and to have that from that shit situation, I could have just hid.
Yeah.
I could have just been like, oh, thanks, bro, and just put the phone down.
Yeah,
but I had to reframe that I was worthy, because at the time I just felt like I was everyone's worst enemy and everyone hated me. And I took myself away from the world. I really did. I took myself away from everyone. And that was mostly for me to be like, there's so much going on in my head and there's so many emotions. I need to pull myself away from everything and just see what's me and what else is like me picking up from other people, because other people were in pain and grieving as well. It was just like, it's a thick mix to sort of navigate.
Was that on... Whereabouts were you guys? Where was he? Was it Paikakariki Hill Road?
Nah. He's got a video of his run of that, which is more than impressive.
Dude, it's like insane skill and like balls you've got to do,
bro.
Like shit.
Yeah, I was up the back of Kapiti there.
Up the back of
Valley
Kapiti.
Road, up the top there, hanging towards the Mangatuks.
Shit, it must have just felt like a bad dream, eh?
Yeah, it was... bro, it was the first... Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, man.
And that was your first time seeing him bored as well.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. It was that was the day I remember seeing my brain spinning around on its own, separate from me. So I was over here curled in a ball, and my brain was just like fuck, like just going round, and I saw it as like almost like a separate entity while I was in shock. It was real weird experience. Yeah, I had a really, really weird experience that day. Like just sitting there. I wasn't going to say this, but I was sitting there, and then all of a sudden I just felt this big like warmth. I was just sitting down, just like rocking back and forth, and I felt this big warmth, and like it felt like someone like put a blanket over me. And I was sitting there, and then I heard his voice, and he's like, "It's okay, bro. It's okay." My brain's over here going fuck, and I'm over here being like speechless, and like I was sitting up against a fence, and that was just going over while my brain was spinning over there over and over again, and I'll never forget it. And it was like someone had like grabbed me, like covered me from behind, and then I was there for however long I was there for, and then the warmth like lifted, and then I didn't realize, but a whole bunch of sheep had come up to the fence, like a big flock of sheep, which weren't there when I sat down. And then the only reason I realized they were there, because when the warmth lifted, they all bolted real quick from the fence. And that was sort of like the opening of me thinking about the afterlife, and like later on, because So
and do you feel like that was Tristan in that moment?
100%, bro. 100%, bro. 100%. Yeah, I think we'd be foolish to think that this was it.
What happens in those moments afterwards? Like, did you have to call like an ambulance or?
No, so there was a team of us there that day, and so we had people at the bottom of the road to make sure that cars wouldn't come up and stuff. Like we were doing our utmost, bro. We were doing our utmost, and it was just like, a freak accident. It's hard, man, because you can never take that shit back, eh? Yeah.
It's hectic, bro. That's hectic. Cheers to Tristan, bro.
Cheers, bro.
I'm sure he was an absolute legend.
He is.
Yeah. As well, like through these times of adversity, what has been like the single, if you can reflect back on like the support that you've had from others along the way, like who was that person that like helped you out the most, and why is it them? Because of their actions?
It's hard to pin it to one person, because I have, and at the time had so many quality connections with people. That's sort of one of my things is I love connecting with people and forming a bond if it's, reciprocated. And there's just a level of like friendship that I have with some people where it's like, these people would take a bullet for you and you take a bullet for them.
Yeah.
And at the time I remember Luther, bro. Luther he was my best mate at the time. He'd been through with all the stuff that had happened before, was there right by my side. And yeah, it was the consistency, bro. It was the, once the hype has all like died down and everyone goes back to their lives and they stop focusing on this event.
Yeah.
It was those people that were consistent and kept on checking in with me and just like sending me a message or sending me like a shit meme or like, like those people that were just continually just like, even if they weren't saying anything, they were just like reaching out and just making sure that in their way that I knew that I wasn't in this alone, because it definitely felt like that at times, bro. It just like, I just didn't want to like bother people with my shit and just be like, these people are all hurting now from this as well. Like, who am I to?
Yeah, but like a lot of like, I guess like intense, like almost shame that you'd feel like not knowing how to navigate that grief.
Massive, and just the easiest, which isn't the best way, is just to avoid it and just to avoid them. And like, I did that, and some of those relationships still haven't even fully healed, and that's hard to live with. Like, but over time, as people come into their own maturity, or you learn more things about yourself, I believe that we all like tend to unravel those things, because who wants to carry shit like that around for the rest of your lives?
Totally.
Like, no one can change anything, and that's the hardest part.
Yeah. Once
you get past that, it's sort of a little bit easier to fathom that, it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out. I believe that.
You're a strong man, mate. You're a strong fucking man.
Thanks,
like through the notes that you sent through, it's like, man, like if one of these events happened to someone in their life, like that's enough. Like that's way too much. But the fact you've had like several crazy
happen in such short time too. Dude. And like I was only just finding myself. I was like 21 or something, like crazy. I was just coming into like being an adult and all that sort of stuff.
Gaining confidence.
Yeah, man. Like music was going real well, and like it was crazy. And then it just all and back to what you said earlier, I'm just sitting there like, why me? Like, what is this? Like, and then it sort of like programmed me into like, what's next? And I had to break that before I projected that for the rest of my life, and that would have been all that I would have seen.
What does your standard week look like, bro? Have you got any like morning routines?
So first of all, Waiheke Island is a luxury island. But at the moment, I've just completely redone my routine. So because I'm working for myself, it sort of depends on what comes in day by day. There's a lot now that's going into logistics and planning and liaising with people around gigs. There's just so many emails back and forth. So I get up at 5 most days.
Nice.
And try and do some exercise.
Nice.
Firstly, I make my bed and then I try and do some exercise.
Yep. What kind of exercise do you do?
At the moment, I'm focusing on a little bit of weight training.
Nice, bro.
As well as flexibility.
Cool.
So like after we've done that, we go and do a little stretch session.
Nice.
I actually brought like some stuff down with me. So I've set up like this little gym at the bro's house, and I've been hustling him early in the morning, like just turning up and just like knocking on the door and just like, let's go.
That's sick.
Let's go.
That's good.
Leg day.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah. Push.
Yeah. And then breakfast. I'm a breakfast man.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's for brekkie? What do you
bro,
usually eat?
I am the weirdest, kookiest person when it comes to what I eat for breakfast.
Yeah.
You really want to know?
Yeah, I do. I want to hear.
Okay. I don't care if you do, but please don't judge me for this. I have Marmite on toast.
Yeah. Standard. Kiwi classic.
Hold your hand. Here we go. And then I'll make garlic mushrooms.
Yeah. Bougie.
Yeah, and then I'll like chop up like half an onion.
Yep.
And then that goes on top of the Marmite.
No,
yes,
no, these are separate meals.
No, this is on top of the Marmite, and then I'll put an egg on top of that.
You're taking the piss.
No, I'm not, bro. I'm not. And I poach the egg, and then I put a couple of dollops of like barbecue sauce on it, and then sprinkle like a little bit of Parmesan, and it just all melts together, and you get like the mushroom, like your standard mushroom eggs. You get that, and then you just get this uppercut of Marmite tang, which I love. I love Marmite.
Bro, why wasn't this the center point of the podcast? Like, surely.
I wanted the people to listen, bro.
How did you even like come across? Like, how did you even think of that as Marmite and like poached egg and mushroom and
I
onion?
can't remember who it was. Someone showed me it, and it was just Marmite and a poached egg.
That's
and like,
so interesting.
Yeah, and
I promise I'll try it.
Yeah,
if you send me through some of the ingredients, I'll give it a review.
Yeah, I can't remember. I thought the same thing. I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Why would you do that? And then they made it for me, and I was like, you know what?
It must have been someone that like would have smoked a little something, like just looking at in their pantry, like fuck, I've got nothing to eat. Yeah, I could probably wreck like some eggs or some Marmite.
I bet my girlfriend's going to be like, I can't believe you said that.
That's so good. That is hilarious. So yeah, big morning guy.
Yeah, big morning guy. And then getting out of the house is a key. I learned that from one of my guitar teachers early on. His name's Dieter Burmester. He's from Germany, but he's been here for so many years. He's just like, he goes out, rain, hail or shine, every single day, at least once. He bikes down to the shop. He goes down to the aquatic center, like goes for a swim. So like learning that. And then I've got a dog.
Oh man!
Shout out to Soda.
Oh sweet. What kind of dog?
She's an Australian Kelpie cross.
Oh, Kelpies are nice. I like Kelpies.
Yeah. So because I get to be so flexible in my schedule, taking her for the walks usually falls on me, which is great when you're on Waiheke Island.
Yeah.
And so take her for a little bit of a tuck out, so she gets a little bit tired, so I can put her up on the bed while I do some more admin, and then when she gets sick of being there, we go for another walk.
Beautiful.
Put her in a different spot. And then just whatever needs to be done that day, bro. Just practice. Yeah, whatever comes my way.
Nice, brother.
Which is, it's nice. It's nice to have the morning bit of routine because everything else can be quite sporadic. And I feel like routine is really, really important to like consistency.
100%. Routine is everything, eh?
Yeah.
Routine is absolutely everything.
Yeah.
We'll finish up shortly with some quick fire questions, but bro, where can people stay in touch with you and your mahi?
Cool. Devon Welch on Facebook if you want to show your mum or your grandparents.
Yeah, bro. We'll chuck some links in the description as well.
Yeah. Instagram, Devon Welch _. You can check out Spotify. I'm on there. If you want to purchase it, then you can go to Bandcamp, which is an amazing thing. Bandcamp pretty much give most of the money straight to the artist.
Awesome.
And they also have a thing, I think it's every last Friday of the month. They just have no fees and they give all the money to the artist. So if you want to support like artists that you love, that's a great way to do it.
That's a great piece of advice, bro. That's really good because Spotify just like feed you peanuts, but it's what I've heard. Unless you're making like hundreds of millions of streams.
Yeah, we calculated it the other day, like a couple of days ago, and it's like 0.003 times a million streams ended up being like, I think it was just under $3,000
for a million streams.
Yeah,
man, it's crazy. It's like where's that money going?
Yeah,
like just some executives in the Spotify office.
Yes, yeah. Snoop Dogg's got a video out. It's like when you get 1 million plays and you don't make $1 million, like, can someone explain that to me?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, that is fucked up. Sweet, bro. What brings you true happiness?
Good times with good people. So like using a gig as an example where we're playing a mean gig where we have the crew come along, we play a really good show, friends and family are there, and we all share in the vibe and we just create this atmosphere. Those are the moments that give me true happiness because we need each other as humans, man. If I was doing that by myself, it'd be dumb. Yeah. It'd be dumb.
I love that. Advice you wish you knew about when you were younger.
I wish I had known more about business growing up, considering I left home and I was working like a little job at New World for like $7.10 an hour or whatever it was.
Yeah, bro. I did my time at New World as well. My first job
on the checkout.
Yeah, I was produce.
Oh, nice.
Hated it.
True. Yeah. At least I got to know what the town was up to. Being on the checkout.
Hard out. You would. Lots of gossip.
Yeah, bro.
Man, what does legacy mean to you?
Legacy is sort of like, to me, means the impression that you leave. So whether that's things you've done or things that are continuing to be done, legacy means the impression that you leave on the world. And the legacy that like I don't really care if people know about me, to be honest. But the one I do want to leave, I believe most parents want for their kids, is I just want people to know that Devon was out here doing his thing, like taking no breaks, just shooting for the stars. Doesn't matter where he landed, he was just shooting. He was aiming high, because if you're not aiming high, you're aiming low. And just like, I want people to, see me for who I am, flaws and all. That's my legacy, bro. And I hope people can step into that, because that's the way forward to be good with yourself. Just to accept yourself and just put it out there.
It's a beauty. That's one of the nicest responses I've ever had to that question, and get a lot of different ideas and perspectives on legacy. And one that, legacy is how you make people feel at the end of the day. Yeah,
totally.
That's awesome. If you could change one thing in New Zealand, what would this be?
Wow, that's hard. That's really hard to pinpoint. There's probably way more qualified people to answer that question than me. If there was one thing I could change,
it could be like a policy. It could just be like, you got a magic stick. You can just be like, boom, this thing is changed.
Yeah, it'd be that regulation we were talking about, bro. It'd be about like there being safer ways to access the technology that's being developed, and more regulation around that, because it is a huge part of like mental health struggles, is looking at screens and all that sort of stuff. I feel like having that would actually help a lot of people. A lot of people. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the documentary Social Dilemma, but there's like a correspondence with the start of social media and like peak suicide trends for like young teenage girls in the States.
I can't remember that stat, but I watched that. I remember watching it. It was buzzy that you say that, because the clinical psychologist that I went to, she was like, how people do like theses in their study. She was delving into the effect that technology has on that, on us, from like phones all the way to like, just instead of going through the checkout and talking to someone, going to the self-scan checkout, and like the difference like that fork in the road can lead to with mental distress and stuff. It's all fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it's buzzy, what do you believe is the main thing that is holding back young people in New Zealand?
I had a conversation about this not a few days ago with my good friend David Orchard. Shout out Dave. And we came to the conclusion, agreed, that I think the bulk of information that is available is swamping people's brains, young people's brains, and giving them so much that they're so focused outwardly on trying to sift and make decisions on all of these things that are available, that the time and the focus that they need for self-growth and development, away from screens as well, isn't being pointed towards themselves. Their time and their energy and their focus is being distracted to outside things, and the information, there's just like, it's just clogging up people's brains, because there's so much to sift through to figure out whether it's true or not, and like what's a reliable source, and that sort of stuff. I feel like if there was less outside, because there's enough going on inside, that would definitely help young people to journeys through and navigate life.
Like less noise.
There's already a lot of noise in your own head.
I like that. It's cool. Well, cheers, bro. We'll finish up on a bit of a quote, but just want to say a massive thanks for coming on the show, sharing your story, getting vulnerable.
Thanks,
a few times I was holding back some of the tears there. So, like, I think this is like what we said earlier, like having these conversations about mental health, like the good, the bad, and the ugly, and hearing that through practical stories and like your lived experience, as like tragic as it is. I'm sure you sharing this today will help somebody that's listening at home. So thank you, bro.
That's the goal, bro. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's a pleasure, man. Resilience is accepting your new reality, even if it's less good than the one you had before. You can fight it. You can do nothing but scream about what you've lost, or you can accept that and try to put together something that's good. Elizabeth Edwards. Cheers, bro.